Goeiedag, good day, fellow South Africans and citizens of the world.
I've been looking around for salvation. I've been looking around for the truth. All around me I see frustration, and I looked all over till I found you. I sit and listen to your stories, and you're telling me, please don't worry. Lot in this world you should know, and love in life is where you should go. If you're looking for somewhere to go, if you're looking for someone to know, if you're looking for someone to guide you, then love in life will guide you.
Goeienaand, good evening, fellow South Africans and citizens of the world, and welcome to tonight's live stream. Well, it's all about that little drink you have in the mornings when you get up. It's about coffee. And we all drink coffee. But do you know the journey coffee beans take before you have your cup? Tonight you will find out. Salman Khan, our guest, is internationally renowned hospitality and culinary art educator, hoteliers, trainer, barista judge, coffee expert and independent political analyst. And I've attached a link to his website down below this video in the description so you can have a look at that. I'm going to get Salman on, so here we go. Now, just for the record, Salman hasn't got a camera, so he's going to be doing a PowerPoint presentation on coffee, which I think you'll find fascinating. So we'll start off with that, and then we'll go into questions and have you chat to Salman directly. Hi, Salman. Hello, Salman. Salman, I think you might have your mic on mute. Hello, Salman. Salman, can you hear me? Sorry, guys, I'm just going to send him a message. He doesn't seem to be hearing me. Hi, Salman.
Hello.
Hi, Salman. You can hear me now?
I can hear you now.
Okay, fantastic. Salman, I'll just hand over to you to go through the presentation all about coffee.
All right, fantastic. Thank you very much, and good evening to everybody. And can you see the screen, Scott, first of all?
Yes, all about coffee with the two different colored coffee beans.
Great, excellent, excellent. Thank you very much. And Scott, it's been quite a while that we have not been connected. And thank you for the invitation. Thank you to the Marlene, ever so watchful and ever so making sure that I am available and on time and all these things. And very welcome to all the beautiful listener or watcher or attendees, audience of your Loving Life TV. I do not know, I can't see the other screen, but I'm sure there must be how many people on at the moment and which
Uh,
countries?
oh, look, it's all over the world. We got between the different platforms, a couple of hundred people on, I'd suggest at this stage.
Fantastic. I'm sure you have set up the preamble about the coffee,
Yes.
or you want to say a few words before I can start talking about the coffee.
No, let's go straight into your PowerPoint presentation, which is on the screen.
Great, excellent. Excellent. And what is the time duration do we have, Scott? Up to what time?
Oh, look, just go for it. I'll let you know if we're running out of time.
All right, let's go. Let's say 1.5 hours will be enough, eh?
Yeah, that should be fine.
Fantastic, Scott. Let me explain and let me dive into that. I've been in love with the coffee for many years, and from my time as a scholar, from there to the trainee, and then from there to educator, and then now I'm actually a coffee expert and the Barista Judge International. So coffee field has changed over the last 10 to 15 years, and it's really catching up with the tea. Still, it is not one of the most drink beverages in the world because tea is still the most, because of the reason I'll tell you why. It is very common in the Latin America, or North America as well as Europe. But when it's come to the numbers, India, when you put the India, Pakistan, and Bangladesh, and China, and even some part in England, it's tea is the most drink hot beverage in the world. But coffee is catching up internationally,
Right.
locally, even in South Africa. South Africa, we have over 33,000 coffee shop, formal and informal. And coffee is just becoming a fascinating. When we take a cup of coffee, and I used to always tell people, coffee is just not a coffee. There is a huge science behind it. And I'm going to unpack it when I say there's a whole science behind. That will be my last part of the presentation. How does the barista, what is mean by being a barista? How does the perfect cup of the espresso get pulled? Not a cup. Let's say the shot of perfect espresso get pulled, and what goes behind the scene. You will be so fascinated. You will be start admiring and appreciating. Really, that's what it is. But before further ado, what you see in front of you, that's a two varietal, internationally known, and that is called Arabica, and one, if we call it, I will go into the detail, but at the moment what you have in front of it, it's a roasted and unroasted coffee beans.
Right.
But the varietal bean, we will go into, Scott. As you can see, the Nemer, there's a lattes, there are cappuccino, there is Americano, there is many other variety that you see on the screen. But what I'm going to cover briskly, because I don't want to go into the too detail of everything, botany of the coffee, the history of the coffee. Of course, we will touch base on a geography, climate, and terroir. Like we talk about how does the wine grow, how is the wine industry. There is exactly the same thing about the coffee, where did it grow, what it is, what terroir, and how does it affect each part of the world. Different coffee give different plantation, where does it grow. Then we move into the coffee politics, who grow the coffee and who control the coffee trade. That's very interesting. And then we will be looking into then coffee trade stewardship, what is like more of like environmental friendly, is it the labor friendly, and if there is any abuse, and it is eco-friendly, and so on and on. And then we go into the what we call it a nut and bolt of the coffee, what happened to the coffee from the bean to the cup. And then we'll be looking into from cultivation, we're already dealing in the botany. Then we'll go into the roasting of the coffee and the roasting techniques, roast grade, and then of course coffee grinding, then the coffee different type of grinding machines, and then we go into the grinding techniques and the ratios. That's very critical. Then we talk about the bean to the cup, the art and the component of a coffee brewing. What is a crockery and cutlery have to do with it? What is the beans to do with a cup of coffee? Coffee making equipments, grinding, ratios, tamping, extraction, techniques, timing, steaming of the milk, the roll of the water, and the coffee and latte art. So that's what is we're going to try to cover is quite extensive. Normally, I take this lecture for 3 to 4 hours, but we will try to squeeze as much as possible into that. So, in a nutshell, in a spiritual, that's what it is. The coffee is all about. As we look at the coffee, then you have a type of the coffees. You have Arabica coffee. They're the two distinct arms of the coffee. We call it a coffee Compora and the Robusta and the coffee Arabica. Coffee Arabica is the most drink coffee in the world, but a lot of people think the Arabica coffee has given the birth to the Compora Robusta. It is all the way around. The Robusta coffee is the offshoot of the Robusta coffee, is one of the species which is Arabica, and that is one of the most primed or most, I would say, highly sought after coffee. Then you have a decaffeinated coffee, then you have a prepared coffee, then you have a coffee roasting. And of course, we will look into the different variety and varietal of the coffee and international where they grow. Then we go into the coffee roasting, what is the light and pure roasting, and so on and on, the roasting profile. That's very intriguing, and that's where we get into the physics and chemistry of the coffee, grinding of the coffee. That's again physics and chemistry of the coffee, grinding and grinding grade, and of course the pouring of a perfect shot. That will be setting up the scene. So I think I've given you something to chew on, and I'm sure our audience or our attendees will be taking the notes, and of course we will be taking, Scott, you will stop me when there are some questions that we can answer the questions. But let me start in the history. We do not know for sure when the coffee was discovered. There is a lot of legends and there is a lot of folklore that coffee was found in Ethiopia. That is a common belief, but a lot of people will fight and they will say no, coffee was found in Italy, and even there is not even a one single tree in Italy, but they say no, the coffee was. But so there is always a debate where the spaghetti come from. Chinese, spaghetti was brought to in early 1900s to the Sicily island by the Chinese, and the Italian will dispute no, it is actually us who invented. When you talk about the culinary cuisine, the French will tell you we are the inventor, we are the mother. But then the Italian will rebuke it by saying, no, it was one of the queen from Italy. She actually she was courted out, and she was married to one of the prince in somewhere in what you call it, Paris, somewhere in Paris, and that's where she started to organize the cooking. A classical French cooking was born. So we do not know. So there's many stories. But what is what is the folklore? What is most of the people, most of the experts agree the coffee was found in Ethiopia in what century? We still think that is around 800 to the 900. That's the time that we found the coffee. And how does it the coffee was found? There was a herdman. A herdman was walking. His name was Kaladi. And Kaladi spot that there are some goats. They are overactive. They are sexually driven. They are very active and they jump all the time. Some of the goats in the herd, they don't. So he started doing the observation and then realized it. Some of the goats, those are eating these berries, which look like a yellowish and a grayish. And then of course they are eating, and that berry gives them such a high that they become super active. And then he took those berries to his owner and talk about it. And the owner said, let's try to eat. And then when they start to eating, they couldn't eat the berry because it was not appealing. Then of course, then they roast it. And from the roasting, it come the bean. And from the bean, then of course, the drink of the coffee come all about. Do you want to say something, Scott?
No, that's fine. Go ahead.
Okay, so that is where the foundational thing comes. Kaladi reported like his finding to the abbot of the local monastery, and then of course it was make a drink, and it became a sacred drink into the monastery and into the the church, and from there that coffee get into the Arabia Peninsula, and from there like a Turkish, there is a huge tradition of drinking coffee. If you go in Turkey, nothing is start, no business and nothing is start without drinking. Like in Italy, when you go, everything is start with a coffee. So people drink the coffee for a various reason. But of course, the geography. Where is the coffee is growing? What is the coffee required? Coffee is a variety of a shrub. It is a native and it's tropic area of the sub-Saharan Africa, now widely known around the globe. A commercial coffee cultivation is primarily restricted to the tropical belt around the equator. Now that is very interesting to know that coffee doesn't grow in northern hemisphere. It's grow in between the equator of a Cancer and Capricorn. Now, my following slide will tell you, my following slides will explain to you where the coffee get grown. So the coffee required a quite a, I would say, a very tropical type of the a tropical type of the weather. It just doesn't grow in a low-lying area. It just doesn't grow in anywhere where the temperature can drop below 15. And that then when we will go into the detail by looking at the climate, and we're looking at the more of a spatial overview of the, we call it a coffee belt, we will be start understanding that where the coffee is growing, and is grow nothing less than 2,500. A good quality coffee doesn't grow less altitude than 2,000 and go all the way to the 6,000 feet as well. And of course, as we're talking about, I don't want to go into the too detail about, because it will take too much of time and have a lot of things to cover. Now, that is what is very important to see. The lower the altitude where the coffee grow, lower the acidity, the bland and earthy. As you can see, my pyramid is showing you the low altitude, you have earthy coffee. Medium altitude, low acidity.
Salman,
right?
Salman,
Yes.
we're still on the first screen in the PowerPoint. Is that correct? Still says all about coffee.
No, I'm on the third.
Oh no,
Can you see?
I can't see that. I still see all about coffee.
No, I'm already moving on to the third and fourth and fifth.
Yeah,
Let me see where we are.
Yeah, I've
It's
only
still
got
the same.
Yeah, I've only
Okay,
got all
so
about coffee highlighted.
okay, now that's not good. Do you want me to stop share and go back and reshare again?
Yes, yeah, reshare
I think
on the
so.
third page. Let's do that. Okay, guys, while
Okay.
Salman's doing that, if you have any questions, please just put them in the side chat. And of course, this is all about coffee. And Salman is an expert on the subject, so we're going to find out a lot about the stuff that you drink. Okay, I'm just waiting for Salman to share that screen.
It's a shame that we didn't know that the screen was not moving. And let's see if you can you see something now?
Not yet, no.
Change.
No, I just see a blank,
Okay.
I just see your little icon. Just, have you shared the screen?
I'm trying to go back and the thing, I just want to go back into
Yeah.
and see why we're not seeing it. Live Skype. Let me go back into the Skype.
How
And
big
let's
is
say
your
share the
file?
screen.
How big is your PowerPoint file?
It's quite heavy. Let me try to reopen again.
Okay, because I was
Let's see
going
if
to
it will-
suggest maybe if you sent it to me in Skype, I could
Let's see.
just...
Can you see the two different type of beans?
Yes, I see, yes. No, I see, yeah, two main types of beans. Yes, I see that, yeah.
Okay, can you see this one now?
Now it's changing. Now it's changing.
Okay.
Okay,
Now let me see if I can go to the bigger screen, and if it's still changing, Scott.
yeah.
Okay. Can you screen is changing?
It's still stuck on 9 at the moment.
It's still onto the altitude.
Yeah, very high altitude, low altitude, yeah.
Okay. All right. Okay. What I'm going to do, I'm going to go back and I'm going to go without a sliding share, and I'm going. Can you see the different slide now?
Yes, yes, I
Can
can.
you see this slide? Yeah.
Yes, I
Okay,
can. Yeah,
so
yeah, it's changing now. Yeah.
Okay, now, okay, let me, I think maybe I don't have to go into the sliding the show. I just want to recap again. This is what we're going to cover. That this is the index,
Yeah.
okay?
Okay.
That's what I was talking about. This is what is a spatial overview of what is going to be covered today.
Right.
And then this is the botany of the coffee that we were talking earlier.
Yep.
Then this is the geography and that we was talking earlier.
Right.
And then this is the climate that where the coffee grow. And
Right.
that we were talking about the, how the altitude differ and why it is more pricey and so on, and where it grow. And then now we're looking at the altitude. Can you
Right.
see the slide, altitude, right?
Yeah, I can.
Okay.
Yeah.
Now, okay, we are okay now. So what I was trying to explain to you, as you can see on the screen, the low altitude is a low quality, is bland and earthy. Medium, which is the 3,000 feet above the sea level, low acidity and little bit sweet. And then you have a high altitude, 4,000 plus, then you got a citric vanilla, and then you got a profiling start picking up into the coffee. Then you have a very high altitude, 5,000 plus, which is very rare, but it is. Then you got a fruit flora, berry, wine, and so on and on and
Is,
on and
is there
on.
a
Okay, so
hang on? Is there a wine that's made from coffee, Salman?
no wine has been made from a coffee, but what I'm saying is when we're looking at the profiling of the berry, it's very identical to the profiling of the wine or the grapes.
Right.
So then we talk about the flower, like first bouquet, like your aroma. It's very much exactly the same thing because your acidity level, your sugar content, it is exactly what the mechanism or what is the botany of the intermolecular the change rate happen when you press when you not the press when you press the grape. Of course things change, intermolecular changes happen. When you warm the berry, exactly same profiling happen. So one side is mechanically pressing, other one is also mechanically, but heat transfer happen to the coffee beans and then start performing and bringing the aroma and citric and
Right.
so on and on. By the time you finish this presentation, you will become expert, all of you, I promise you. Okay,
Okay, over to you.
now there are the two mother coffee beans. I talked about it earlier. It is called Arabica and Robusta. A lot of people, barista, you go in South Africa, you say, what coffee serving? I am serving my house brand. Okay, I know you're serving the house brand, but what it is our deluxe coffee brand. Now I know you're deluxe brand, but tell me the coffee. What coffee you are? They will never be able to know most 90% of the barista whether serving the Arabica or Robusta. Then you ask them, so no, it is a secret recipe. I can't explain. I say no, because you don't have the knowledge about your own beans. So you try to tell me this is A. So anyway, so what is important thing to know? There is called Arabica coffee and Robusta. Okay,
Right.
Robusta is a little bit for low grade. It is now very commercialized. It is being monetized hugely. But Arabica coffee is 80 to 90% of the drinking of the coffee internationally. It's Arabica coffee. It's bigger bean. It's better. It is tastier. It's grown a high altitude and is fetch the higher price. Now, what is important to know? The Robusta is not the Arabica have given birth to the Robusta, even though it's a lower quality. Is actually the Robusta is the main branch. It's the main genesis. It's giving the birth to the Arabica.
Right.
Okay, that's important. So as you can see, type the Arabica coffee bean type. So there is maybe around 70, 80 different sub variety of the Arabica. So as you can see, Tapica, Bourbon, Mondonovo. That's Mondonovo. That's more on a Latin America. And then you have a Gaisha. That is more of a Indonesia. Pacamara. That is also Latin America. Wild Arabica. Then you have S795. Then we get into the more detail of chemical and the laboratory test. Villa Sashi, SL34, SL28. When you go and you become a coffee merchant, you learn all these things. So I'm just trying to give you an example. Arabica is just not Arabica. When I tell you I'm making Arabica, there are subcategories. Caturra, I think Caturra come from Latin America. It is also very famous. Catui also come from Latin America. And because Latin America produce 85% of the world coffee. Okay, so this is the coffee bean plant because
Salman,
we're discussing about, yes,
can we go back to that previous slide for a second? Yeah, that one. I
yes,
like cappuccino.
yes.
Where would that fit?
Okay, cappuccino is it's a final product. Okay, we're looking at the botany. So we're talking about the two distinct, two distinct variety of the coffee.
Yeah.
So coffee have a two varieties. One called Robusta tree, and the one is called Arabica.
Yeah.
Okay. Now, what I'm trying to show you, this is a sub
Right.
variety of, like you have a white grape and you have a red grape.
So
But when you go into the detail
could any one of
of the
those
which
be a cappuccino?
anyone, no, no. Yes, it can be a single malt, like single malt whiskey. You
Yeah.
can have a single Caturra based
Ah.
Arabica
Okay.
Caturra, or it could be called, now we call it blended coffee. So it could be a part 50% Caturra and 50% wild, or three different type. Then you can have a Caturra, then you can have something from Indonesia, then you can have something from Africa, and you can have a three different blend, which is now we call it a barista profiler or the
Right.
roasting profile. Those are the like a maestro of a musicians. Those who look at the coffee, they know this acidity will mix with this one, and they combine things. Like when you have a blended wine,
Yeah.
two-way blended wines, exactly same thing. So now you're not going to go and buy the coffee without turning the pack and look at it. What is a varietal? Because you know it is Arabica, it is expensive, or
So,
Robusta. But no, I want to find out what is the variety of it is. Is it Catura, SL28? Because SL28, SL34, Villa Sarchi, and this, they can grow in Indonesia. They can grow in Latin America. They can be in Colombia. They could
yeah,
be in anywhere. Not in France, not in Italy, but anywhere. So you got to look at it. Okay, it was grow in Mozambique, Kenya. All right, because Kenya also have a little bit of a coffee. Even in South Africa, for some reason, in KwaZulu-Natal, there was a farm which have miracle thing that was producing coffee. But most of them, like Tanzania, Uganda, Ethiopia, all that area, Ghana, New Guinea, Guinea, and all that belt. That is, I would don't go into the detail now on that
yeah.
belt and coffee and all this thing. Let's discuss.
Let's keep on going.
Okay, now,
Yeah,
okay, key coffee beans. This is the way the plant look like. Okay, as you can see, they are reddish like a cherry, a small cherry, and they are grow all on the side. Only trouble is they grow and they ripe on a different stages, and that is one of the biggest nightmare. That's why coffee become more expensive. As you can see, no coffee bunch will be ripen on the same time that you can go and cut or you can shake. Everything will come out. No, this two is ready. Third is ready. This is about to be ready. This is still green. This is light. This is light. If you bring this thing out, you're gonna waste. So you only can pick up, and that cannot be picked up by mechanical way. Only can be hand picked,
right.
and that is why the coffee beans become more expensive. Now, inside the anatomy of a coffee cherry. So when you look at the top, that is a skin. That's where the color comes from. In the middle, that is where your pulp is, and that's your parchment. Then you got silver skin inside of it, and then you got a bean inside of that as well. All right. Okay. We'll talk about further. We call it one called a peanut coffee bean, which is they don't have the two parts in the coffee. One side pushed it out, like when you have a baby is born as a twin, but one is pushed out, then other one is come out. So some people will say, "Oh, I'm going to have a twin," and all of a sudden the one is gone because it's pushed out. So that's called become a pea berry. Pea berry, when the middle part is start growing and pushing the other berry out, and that's also very high price. Why? Because then it's become fuller berry. Okay. So now I want to show you Catura. As you can see, fuller, round, great. This is a Pacamara. That is also fuller, very, very good quality. Now, Pacas, that is more of your, what you call it, man, the Robusta. The bigger sizes are more of the Arabica. The lower sizes is almost significant to your, what you call it, man, I was saying earlier that the Robusta, okay?
Yeah,
So as you can see, varietal. This is start from the bottom all the way to the darker. That is fully ripened. This is coming right. As you can see in the background here, that's a different variety of the coffee. Okay, and that's make it so pricey. Now, this is more important that we were talking about. Then we call it a politics, and then we call it a coffee belt. Coffee grow between the equator of a Capricorn and Cancer. So wherever this belt goes, that's where the coffee grows. So as you can see, South Africa is out, but for some reason we have a drift. In KwaZulu-Natal, there is a plantation, but Madagascar, Seychelles, Kenya, touching. Here is the best coffee coming from that your Tanzanian, Ethiopian, all this thing. So as you can see in Africa, we got Papua New Guinea, you have a Brasilia, then you go to Sumatra. They're just showing you what is not the where this produced, but they're just indicating. As you can see, Sumatra Island, then you got some part of the Australasia, all these island, Nicobar, and then your Indonesian islands, India. This is the Nicobar Island. That is India. Some part, northern part of the India, lower part of the India. That's where is monsoon coffee come from, and they are some part. Then Africa is got a big chunk. Then you got Brazil. Brazil is one of the biggest producer. 80% of the world coffee produced by Brazil. Very big producer internationally. High plantation, very good altitude, and that's where. Then some of the very, very good, because you got island here in the Central America, and that is a place called Blue Moon or Blue Mountain, which is a highly priced coffee in there, Colombia, and between Ecuador, not Ecuador. There is the place I can't remember now. I'll tell you now. That's where the some of the island is called a Blue Mountain, where the mountain when the coffee is ready, and that is when the full moon come and the blue rays hit the coffee beans. The people go and pick it up, and they have a very specific taste and flavor and aroma and profile, and that is a highly priced coffee come from this area. It's called a Blue Mountain coffee, and so on. And now, what I want to explain to you, Scott. Have a look at here. Can you see who produced, which continent produced the most coffee?
You
The
said
country
Brazil.
wise. Brazil is the biggest producer because the master, but Africa is more blessed. Can you see the continent?
Yeah.
The most suitable climate, we are blessed in Africa to produce, but because of the poverty, because of low agriculture incentives, because of the low investment from the government, they have not mastered the skills to utilize the coffee plantation in most of only Ethiopia, Kenya, Tanzania, Uganda is producing well, Guinea is, but they should have we could have applied everywhere, right?
Right.
Now, Brazil mastered the skill. Chile and what you call it, your Ecuador and your all the Latin American, they spend it hugely into that plantation, and they become extremely good producer. But land-wise and mass-wise, Africa should be at the top. Now, what my question is, then I'm going to get your blood, every African who is listening to us, because most of the South African listening, I'm going to get your blood boiling. Now, Scott, give me the top brand. Then when you go to the coffee shop, not talking about coffee shop to buy a coffee cup of cappuccino, but I'm talking about when you're going to buy the coffee in Pick and Pay or going to Woolworth or anywhere. What coffee do you buy? What
Um,
brand? Or let's say you're in coffee shop. Let's say coffee shop. Okay. Do
uh,
you see the sign?
yeah, just let me
Yes.
get my coffee and I'll tell you.
You got it.
Hi, Salman. I drink Al Cafe Aroma Classic.
Where it's been produced?
I don't know. Let me just see what it says on the back.
Must be
Made in Germany.
aroma. Made in Germany. Fantastic. Let's just ask your audience the coffee brand they're using, where the brand come from. Just ask few of them and let's see what they type in your chat box, because I can't see the chat box.
All right,
Let's see what they put it out here, what they're buying.
guys. If you
The
got your
top brand.
coffee, if you got your coffee available, tell us what the brand is or the name and where it was produced. Just put that in the side chat for us. Back to you, Salman. I'll let you know when they start coming through.
Okay, what I'm trying to say, the best top brand when you go into South Africa or into Australia, I don't know about Australia much, but I know Italy, France, Holland, you go to any Africa continent coffee shop or in Hilton, you sit in a five-star hotel, you see Ilili, you see Lavazza, right? Sound familiar?
Yeah,
Lavazza
yeah,
and Ilili, right?
yeah.
Okay, and then so on and on and on. And do Engerd, that's from Germany. Okay, have you ever seen any sign of African coffee been marketed into any five-star hotel, coffee shop, Mug and Beans, Seattle, anywhere under the name of, when you go to the coffee shop, you see the Ilili, you see the Lavazza, you see, oh, so many different markets. Now, what is the saddest part? That Africa produced quite big amount of the coffee. Latin America produced quite a big amount of the coffee. It's get exported, is get cartelized. It is still very cartel. It's go to Germany. It's go to the Italy. Italy do not have. This is Italy. Can you see the Italy here?
Yeah.
This is Italy, and that's the Germany on the top. That's France. Here you go, Italy produce some of the top brands in the world, but they do not even have a one single shrub or tree of a coffee. Germany does not have one single thing.
Wow.
Belgium does not have one single tree, but they control 90% of the export internationally. That's
Wow.
called a cartel. Now that's why I want you to make your blood, and every African person listening to me make the, because they buy at the peanut, they buy exploited coffee from here, they export to the Italy, and what they develop is how to roast and profile and how to actually prostitute our product to the rest of the world. So it's produced here in Kenya, Uganda. They take back sacks, millions of the ton to the Italy. They roast, they repack, they put up a sexy girls onto this, Italy and French and all, like what? And people will say, wow, well, yeah, the same so bloody good because it's come from a Giovanni coffee machine, it's come from a bloody. It's all produced in Africa and Latin America, exploited by the labor, and then it's get here, big barons of the coffee merchant come, they take the millions of the US dollar worth of from here at peanut prices, go there, roast it, repack it, and export back to us suckers that we buy a Italian brand and we buy French brand, we buy, sorry Scott, a German brand. But we
Yeah.
don't go and look for Ethiopian brand. We don't produce our South African or any African entrepreneur until today have not produced a brand which says it is produced in Africa and we are proudly presenting. There are few coming, but this is a mafia here. This is a cartel from big countries, European countries. They take all the beans, they repack, roast, and whatever they do to mechanically, whatever, and they are exporting to internationally, especially to America. The biggest export, one of the biggest export from Italy is America, is coming as a coffee, but nothing from Africa to America. Isn't it shame?
Yeah,
Same like
it's
cocoa.
interesting. It's just a raw product, and the actual
Exactly,
uh, uh,
exactly.
yeah, getting it to
We call it,
market is
we,
done
we,
outside.
we call it,
Yeah, carry
I
on.
think, Scott, we talk about it before. It's called beneficiation.
Yeah,
The best diamond get produced in Botswana and South Africa. But who opened the price? Who dictate the price of a diamond?
well, it's
We
De
produce the
Beers,
top. No, in here, in Belgium. Yeah, it's right
right?
here. Belgium, LME, which is the London Metal Exchange, and the in Brussels there is a diamond exchange which dictate, because they polish the diamond there, and they collect the raw diamond from here. They take it there, they polish, and
Yeah,
after the beneficiation, they open the market. Same, the coffee get produced here, cocoa trees get produced here. Who is the best producer of the chocolate? Is Swiss and Belgium, but they don't have a cocoa tree because the temperature doesn't suit.
yeah,
So what I'm trying to explain to you, our raw material get into the Europe, get beneficiation, and come back to us. So
and
next
the
time you buy coffee, guys,
just to be clear, Salman, the money is made in the process through the processing of that bean or that the polishing of the diamond. That's where the money's made.
exactly. So what I'm saying is, why South Africa cannot invest into that IP and polishing of the diamond and have it in Johannesburg, in Kimberley, or anywhere else? Why not?
Mm,
Right?
yeah,
That's a food for thought. Just do it. If we producing at our doorstep here, the coffee, Ethiopia, Mozambique, and all the places, why don't we in South Africa import raw material and we do the profiling, roast, and then re-export to the rest of the world? Why the coffee go to the Europe and Italy and France and Holland, and they're produced in Germany, and they, after, the only thing they do is to package, roast, package, and send back to us. So
so
we are suckers
why
of
why
the
why
French.
does that happen? Why don't they have a coffee manufacturing plant in South
That's called a,
Africa?
that is called one two things I'm going to say, but with the due respect, we call it a African slave mentality. That anything come from France and Holland and this, they are, that's good. One is a slave mentality.
Yeah,
One. Secondly is they, that's the technique of, this is called exploitation. When we had a first scramble in 1886 and the second scramble for the Africa resources was in 1900, this colonizer or imperialist, they come, they took all the minerals, they took all the plantation,
right.
and they work it out like like let's say Malawi produced one of the best tea. Most of the tea, this afternoon I was talking to Malawian, it is owned by all the English people. They employ everybody. All the tea get exported to England and they re-export to everywhere else. So what I'm
Now,
trying to explain to you is That's the colonial masters, those who those who colonize our commodities. They don't colonize us by land, but they colonize our actually our commodities.
Right. Now, Garnet has said here that Frisco is produced in South Africa, so there must be some coffee plants, coffee manufacturing plants in
But
South Africa.
Frisco, who said that?
Garnet,
Who said that?
one of the people in the
Who?
side chat.
Okay, ask him to look at the back of the Rico coffee. It is not a coffee bean. It is a chicory, which has got a caffeine in it, but is not a coffee bean. So
Ah,
what we're producing, chicory. Chicory is a very close in caffeine level, but it's not produced by. So Rico is a artificial coffee. It is not a coffee bean. But let's say, why not we coffee can have a real coffee bean powder available in South Africa?
so
That's my
what
pitch.
you're saying,
All right.
Salman, what you're saying is that Frisco coffee, which is very popular in South Africa, is actually not a coffee bean.
It is not. Just read it in the back. It's a chicory. Chicory is got a same chemical composition as the coffee bean, but it is not come from a coffee bean.
Okay.
And it is mixed into the powdered form, but it gives the taste of a coffee.
Right. Okay. Yeah. Back to
Okay.
you.
Coffee
Yeah.
belt. Again, coffee belt. As you can see,
Yeah.
this zone is also called a coffee belt. Now, the next one. Now, who produced the most coffee in the world? Number one, Brazil.
Yeah.
Okay. And as we go along, then we look around. Number two is in here somewhere Indonesia, and then of course then you got all around that we have. Okay, so none of the European country produce coffee. None of the European countries. Here is Italy, here is your Germany, here is a Belgium, and here is a France. None of them produce or grow any coffee. It is all produced here, export here, repack here, come back to all around the world. So food for a thought. Now, coffee revolution, guys. Decolonize the coffee market. Make sure, be proud. When you go to a coffee shop, demand. I don't want Lili coffee. I want Ethiopian coffee. I want a Kenyan coffee. I want this. Buy the brand. Go to the Pick and Pay and say, why you have Italian coffee? Why you have this coffee? But get me an African coffee. So
Right.
that is a teaching. That is now the revolution must start. Coffee sustainability. Coffee sustainability, fair trade. But when you dig deep into that, is actually a cartel. Those are the people who call this is a fair price trade. It means these farms have been looked after. They are they're paying enough money. I've been to many of the farms in Africa and into Latin America. It is a fair trade. It's another bogus way of telling the people the fair trade is small sticker appear into the bag. Fair trade is actually like OPEC. Fair trade is nothing to do with a fair trade as we think. Fair trade was when between the European, there was a big mafia driven like a cartel fight. So everybody say, you know what, you go and buy all the plantation, you come to the Europe and you control the pricing. Don't do that. So fair trade, when you see the sign, it does have nothing to do with a non-exploitation of a coffee. Fair trade means let's work together. Don't overtrade or don't undertrade. Let's set up the price like a OPEC. Guys, don't fight between us. If Venezuela coming in a market, let's screw them until they die. If South Africa start producing or Iran start producing, is not a part of a OPEC. Let's bring the price down. When he died, like Venezuela, they killed the Venezuela and they put the petrol price up. So because why? Venezuela was producing cheaper oil than the OPEC and they kill it. So fair trade is a misleading statement. A lot of people think it is a sustainability. It is not a sustainability. It is a fair trade. Then there are other regimes are coming on board, which you will be able to see that they are environmental friendly, they are labor friendly, and so much on and on. But a lot of people associate fair trade logo onto the back of the label, thinking, oh, it is non-exploitive farming. So it is being no, fair trade is a cartel. Those who say, die guys, don't fight between us. Let's set up the price and screw everybody else. That's what it is.
Now,
Okay.
Salman, at the very start,
Yes.
someone was saying that the price of coffee has doubled in the last year.
Yes, it is. The reason is because of everything has been double. If you ask me, I went to the supermarket, look at the cheese, look at this thing, anything which is imported, because we had no import export for many years. Did you realize it? I don't know, Scott, you're not in South Africa. Have you, anybody who is listening to me will say, we had last year one of the best avocado in a market. We had the one of the best mangoes. We had the best anything you think. Even like micro herbs and some of the vegetable which you don't see it normally. Why? Because we couldn't export, so we were pushing into our local market. Avocado I buy normally, you buy a pack of two for 40 rand, 50 rand. I buy other day five avocado for 20 rand. And I say, how? Because they couldn't export in time because of the COVID restrictions. Everything become cheaper in South Africa, which locally produced. It's become double or triple what is coming from overseas. So that's why I hope that I have answered the question. Because
Absolutely, yeah.
coffee, yeah, coffee which was coming from Italy and France, nobody was exporting, and all of a sudden, whoever had the stock, they push it up. And of course, entry port have more regulations. So if the ship was coming, like the cost of the like a container was 30,000 US dollar, become 60,000 US dollar because the COVID test and this test, sanitization test, everything pushed up, up, up. Then cost of everything gone up. Okay, roasting technique. Now we're getting into the nut and bolts. Okay,
Yeah.
now we're getting into the nut and bolt. Okay, now if any question, I would like to take question. If you see anything on a sideline, ask a question that we can move into this.
Okay, over to you.
No questions so far. Okay, so what happened? You have a plantation. After the plantation, as I said to you, that is high altitude, humidity, very humidity. The coffee beans only grow after the first rain of the season, whether it's a monsoon rain, whether it's equatorial rain, whether it's a tropical torrential rain. The minute it rains, the berry, the flowers open and they give the food. And if it rains twice in a season, it will produce two. It's called an overbearing. So after that, is get handpicked. No mechanical way of doing it. I know in Brazil they brought some machines that can shake in a way to the way that they can only have the ripe berry falling in. But most of the until today is still people go by the ladder and handpick because it's not unified ripening. That like at that like the mango and other grapes and everything else get ripe and you shake it off. Berry have a very difficult time of ripening, so it's not a unified or universal time. So after that, what happened is it come out and then of course it get dried. There is a two way of drying the berry. Berry one is called a natural dry, which you put it onto the open fat under the sun and the skin get dry and then you go to the chemical washing and then it come out. The other one that you wash and then use chemical and then you remove the skin and then move on. Anyway, in either way, the top part get removed, only the berry come and that's become a small berry that I show you. Now
Yeah.
what happened? Berry, if you take the raw berry, which is like a greenish, and you try to eat, is ugly, it's sour, it's you malic acid, you will not like it. So bringing the best, like a diamond, you take the berry or you take the rough diamond, it means nothing. When you start polishing it, the perfect cuts and the shading and everything, they call it triple C effect. It must be cut, clear, and crystallization of the thing that give a same happened to the roasting profiling of the berry. So now berry get sized. So they're like a grading. The bigger the berry is become premium, the smaller the berry become this because berry get shrink during the time of intermolecular transition of the intermolecular composition change, and then of course berry get shrink. Now, roasting is a very important thing. So after plucking and drying it out, whether you do mechanically, whether you use a sun dry, you need to go into the roasting. The roasting, it's a technical thing. So most of the roasting happen either at the farm. A lot of people, the farmers are developing roasting, or like you have the chicken farms. Some people produce the broiler, some people produce the layer, and some of the people, those who producing the broiler, they don't go for slaughtering. They give it to the slaughterhouse. They are the one who do the slaughtering and they do the beneficiation of the product. Same, lot of farmer, they're not having these equipments. They don't have a storage facility. They rather sell both the bags or the sacks of 25 kg to market. Then there are people, those who do the roasting. There are companies, those who are specialized in roasting, and that's why in Europe they are specialized roast masters, like almost like a soap opera, or what you call it, a conductor of the opera. Okay, now I don't want to go into more detail, but I wanted to show you some picture. They are profiling in the roasting. So most known profiling is called a light roast. Okay, it's known called a light city, half city, and cinnamon. So that is a light roast. When you go for medium roast, it's called a city, American, and breakfast. Medium dark roast, it's called a full city. I'm going to show you some of the slides, and that is another roasting grading and the variety. The dark roast, high continental, New Orleans, and they are the name of the different classification of the roasting.
Right.
What is interesting is this is, you got a green bean. This is, you got a light bean. This is a cinnamon, which is lightly roasted. You can't get the best at this level. No. Your best coffee roast start coming from here. That is called a high roast. City, which is get more shiny because the oil is start coming out. Then you got a full city. Is it just the names of the different categories, and the temperature is roast. So that's where I think a lot of people in South Africa like it, and I like it French roast because it's really almost well done, and that have a very high acidity. Here is called Italy roast, and that is like a char, is almost like a burned cigar or a tire. Yes, very very intense taste. Okay, what happened to the coffee? So I'm going to go coffee tree, coffee harvesting, green beans. Green beans get shipped as go to the Italy over here. Then green beans get roasted. Then of course from the roasting, if I roast for you and I try to make a coffee, you're not going to like it because it will be frothy, it will be too gassy. You will not. You got to give 48-hour gap to degas, because what happens is when the coffee start getting roasting, the coffee bean go through the called intermolecular transition, then where the internal moisture or internal content of the coffee syrup that start getting cooked, and with what step that you stop it, and after that when you leave it, it's still cooling off but it's still releasing the gas CO2. So you can't roast and you can't make a coffee on the same day. If you try to make it, it will be ugly coffee, frothy, and you will not like it because it's still degassing. After degassing, then it goes get packed, and then of course after the 7 day it's go to the sites, and then it's get moved on. Okay, so here we go. Next one. This is the basic roast level. This is a green, that's normal bean. If you get we don't find normally the green bean in South Africa, but some other places we have. Then you got yellow, which is not really roasted. It's like a peanut color. Here is a first crack. I'll tell you what is meant by the first crack. At certain temperature, in my next slide, you will tell you when the temperature rises from here to there, it's got a fine crack. It's called a first crack. Then the second crack is called a city roast. The second crack is called a full city, and that's you got a second crack. It means it's cooking, it's cracking, and you got a burn, which has become a charcoal. That's called a French roast or Spanish or Italian, and that is very bitter, very ashy, and very like a charcoal or can a burned cigar. That type of profiling. So that is where the temperature rising, and that is go to the high extents, and that is a first roast. I'll show you another slide to explain to you more. And that is what it is happen in a different categories. So when you put up a green bean that we showed you earlier, it rises to the temperature within first 5 minutes to 370 degree, and that's what you start seeing the first cracks of the first crack come at actually the temperature of 390. So 370 to 380 is still light and peanut type of like a brown, but here you start getting the color because of the burning, and it's called a Maillard action, and that start caramelization of the bean start happening, and your carbohydrate start cooking inside, and that is at 390 degree, and that is between from 14 minutes, from 0 to 14 minutes, you arrive to the temperature of 390, and then of course you stop. And that's the techniques. I mean, the people will, the people who are master in roasting, they will know to bring to this temperature what type of you need and how you're going to degas it, how you're going to cool it off. So then you got 4 or 5, almost 400 degree. That's where you got a second crack. 420 degree, that you got 19 minutes. Then you got a third crack, and here for 440 degree in 20 minutes is almost like a charcoal. It's like a ooh, it's almost like a burn. But a lot of people like it because it's given intensity. But I will settle for second crack because I got more profile. I can smell it. I don't like a burnt taste in my mouth like you having a burnt cigar in your mouth. I like it here. This is best, very good intensity, and you can pick up all the notes here. The charcoal and ashiness, it overpower my palate, and I can't distinct which blend it is, what flavor is coming out, what is a bouquet, and it just ruin everything. So this is a scientific way of looking at this. Is the chemical composition, or I would say the physics and chemistry of the coffee roasting. So they are profiling. So next time you buy coffee, look at it. You will see, is it a dark roast, is it a medium roast, it is a first crack, second crack, is it a full city, medium. So now you become an expert. When you're buying the coffee, you look for the altitude, you look for the class, you look for the berry. You will also understand what is it, the my coffee is Arabica first of all, or Robusta, which part of the world is coming from. It's coming from Ethiopia, what altitude it is, what the level of acidity it is, and then how it has been roasted. What is it been roasted, light, medium, or super roasted? No,
Now,
I wanted the full roast. So you
Salman,
will be able to pick up. Yes, yes.
Salman, with the altitude that it's grown at, is it the higher it's grown at, the more expensive or the better it is?
100%. Very good question. As I showed you earlier, the higher the altitude, the more acidity you will have in your coffee. Okay, and acidity bring a lot of flavorant into your coffee, full bodiness. The higher the altitude, if you have any coffee which is grow over 3,000, 2,500, 3,000 is a good altitude. But if it is more than 3,000, 4,000, fantastic, excellent, excellent, excellent coffee, very good coffee. And that's why your pricing goes up according to the level of acidity. And acidity has its own profiling in itself. It is a malic acid. Is it the acidity coming from the like a citric? Is it the acid is like coming from like a pineapple? There's many other way of looking at the acidity. But a good profiler of the coffee will look at the acidity, look at the temperature, look at the timing, look at the moisture level in a bean, and then he know exactly how to actually roast it. Like the cook, when you look at the beef, you look at what is the temperature, how old the cow was, it has been dry for how many months, it has been cut, it has been matured. Now, what temperature shall I cook that this will be a perfect Chateaubriand steak, or it will be perfect rum steak? But you give it a amateur, he don't know if it's a matured beef, it's not matured beef, it is wagyu or what. He's gonna just burn the meat, finish. So you need an expert chef to bring the best out of the steak, or somebody who do the brine. Exactly the same thing. The roast master is an expert. When you look at the raw bean before he put into the roasting oven, he will set the profiling, how many minutes he will take to bring the temperature,
Right.
how many minutes to cool it off, how many need to. So it's like a very scientific reasoning. Okay. Now this is your home small roast coffee roaster. You put it there, it's roasting. You take like a few 100 grams and you roast it and you make it. But you can't roast and drink, as I said to you earlier. This is a little bit bigger. You can do it like a 10 to 15 kilo of the roasting. That's where you put the coffee in the hooper, and that is where inside it's get roasted, and there's a heater inside. And then in the front, that's with the rotatory. Then you open the funnel, and then this will fall, and this is thing rotating. And underneath there is a fan which cooling off. Why? Because if you leave your coffee bean unattended and you leave it here without cooling off, the temperature continue to rise and it's going to be burned. So when you arrive to the 370-degree, and if you don't bring it down by cooling it off by the air pressure, you're going to have arrived to the 470, and that is a almost charcoal break. So you got to control this thing. And here is an industrial that when you're going for tons and tons and tons, and it is here. Now this is an automated one, like a washing machine. It's not a washing, it's like a room. You set up your temperature profiling, you know the moisture level, you know the cooling off time, you know the everything else inside. Whatever you want to achieve is programmed here. You put the beans and you filter it out afterwards. So I'm trying to show you from a tiny whiny one to the medium size to the industrial and a fully automated one. Any question?
No, but a lot of discussion about the different types of coffee. People are finding this very interesting.
Thank you. That's what the whole work is. This is when you are it's like a small laboratory. So you put in a tunnel different beans and different temperature, and you want to achieve different things. You want to profile and see, if I cook this bean at that temperature, what will happen? Same bean on that temperature, what will happen? This. So this is like a more of a laboratory that you cook and you see. And it's like, you know what? I took this bean which have so much of a moisture, but I go from 1 minute to 20 minutes or that temperature and cool it off, and I arrive to that flavor. Same bean, different type of the heating, and I get this one. And then the taste. After that, they say, okay, well, we should take not all the 100 kilo of the beans or 1 ton of the bean to go. And this is like a small testing machine. And then after that, they set up the profile. They know this profiling of the temperature control will work for my bigger batch when I'm going to roast.
Right.
Okay, coffee grinding. Okay, now we're dealing with the chemical compositions. Now we're dealing with the mechanical. Now, as much as the care goes into the into the roasting of the coffee, same like polishing the diamond. The roasting of the coffee, it's extremely technical. Not everybody can do it. You got to know your onion. You need to understand the raw beans to make the best roast. Okay, and what you want to achieve. The grinding also exactly the same thing. What you want to achieve. So now here you have a fine grind, you have very fine grind, you have a fine grind, you have a medium grind, you have a medium, you have a coarse and a very coarse. Here we're looking at this coarse, and this one too here is like a Turkish coffee. Medium is still like a homemade, you have filter coffee, you put on the top, you put the hot water and you get a jug out of it. Fine. For getting a good quality cappuccino and espresso, between very fine and a fine, I would go for a fine, not very fine. I'll tell you one when we go forward into the more slides. Now, this is a different bean grinder. I'm sure this is a traditional old grinder. You put up a small cup, 100 gram, and you use by the hand and grind. This is a mechanical which you can buy from the home market and all. This is a little bit more of a sexy one. This more professional one. This is now two in one. You have a grinder on the top, and then grinder will come into the thing, and you make espresso straight away. After roasting, you put the roasting coffee beans here, it grind, and then also give you perfect shot of the espresso that you can convert into cappuccino. That is standalone, small hooper. A lot of people they use it in small coffee shop or at the home as well. This is purely a home one that you grind your coffee in the morning, you put it into the tamping machine, and then you see exactly the same thing here. All right. Now, grinder setting. How do you set up your grinder? Sorry, where I was grinder setting here. Okay, the grinder setting, I'm not going to go into detail because it's too technical.
Now,
what I want to show you.
Can I just ask
Yes,
you, Salman? Just go back to the
yes,
previous screen, the grinder setting. Yeah,
yes.
that one. Now, is it possible to make that full screen? Because the text is quite small. So what I'm
I will
saying
make
is
it,
rather
but
than
then,
having the little screens on
okay,
the left-hand side,
okay.
if we make that full
You see,
screen.
I can make it, but the problem is if I try to move to the next screen, then we get stuck. Let's, for your, you can see it.
Okay. Well, go with
As you
what's
can
best for
see,
you. Yeah. No,
okay,
we can read it.
extra coarse, grind. This is the way it is get grinded.
Yeah.
The medium coarse, gritty, and this way it will be used cold brew, French press, espresso, Turkish coffee, extra fine. All these things are coming here. So let
Right.
me see if I can. Can you see the next screen? No.
No, I can. I'm still looking at that one with the grind
Yeah.
settings.
So let me go back. Let me stop sharing. Let me stop sharing. Let me go back and do exactly what we were doing before because I think the problem is. Can you see the new screen?
Not yet.
Is it coming?
No. I think you got to stop sharing first and then
Okay. Wait. Wait.
share.
Wait. 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 Okay. I'm going back.
It's a sharing
I'm going
problem.
back here. Okay. Can you see it?
Just give it a second. It takes a second to load. Yeah, it's
Yeah.
coming. Yeah, there. Now I see the coarse, medium, fine. Yeah,
Okay.
yeah,
Now you can see this is coarse. Okay.
yeah.
Which is for the French press. I'm sure you know what is a French press is. Let me take you to the next slide. That is a French press. I'm sure we used to have cafetiera. We call it cafetiera. You put the coffee on the bottom, you put the plunger, and you put the hot water, and you press
Mm-hmm.
from the top. It's called a French press. Okay. So in the French press, because it's a homemade thing, you can use a coarse grinding, but you can't use it for the cappuccino or for the espresso, because for the espresso you need a fine or very fine or fine.
Right.
So this is the way it looked like in a grinding. Let me show you another one. That's the way it looked like. Another one. This is, you can see this is very powdery, less powdery, coarse and very coarse, and almost like a stony and breeding.
Yeah.
Okay, this is the different way of, very coarse will be using here, extra coarse will be used here, then your drip dry chemix that you will using here, saffron code you'll use here, espresso, mocha, all these things are different grinding. And to this one, the fine Turkish one, you pour it, and of course you strain it. For the espresso, this is your called porta that you will put it into here. Okay, now is again another example where you will use whatever. This is a very like course, and then you go to the fine to the Turkish, and then you use espresso, and that is your different profiling of the coffee.
Right.
Okay, now as you can see, brewing strength, how much the what you will put the medium and the strong and all, what temperature you will put, how much you will put. This more of like for the barista training. I don't want to go into the detail. This is the extraction level. This is also very technical. I will explain to you later, but I don't want to go into the detail here as well. Coffee size and sugar. Small coffee cup size is small. Sugar, how much grams you need to put. Coffee, how many grams you have to have. Coffee traditional sugar. This more for a barista, but it's just for showing you that it's not as simple as to have a perfect cup of coffee. There's a scientific things goes behind. Now this is an interesting one. All you of will be fascinated to see different names of the coffee. Coffee skinny, coffee days,
Oh, yes.
espresso, Nick. Now, if you look at it, yeah, when you look at it, the barista training, this is the way we give them a visual chart to understand. When somebody said, "Give me the espresso con panna." Panna in Italy is mean cream. You put up a one single shot of espresso and you put up a whipped cream on the top. Okay, milk foam and espresso combined together is macchiato. Okay, you have cappuccino that you was referring to, one shot of espresso, which is almost like a 25 to 27 milliliter of the coffee. Then you have a steam milk, and then you got a foam on the top. So three layers on the top. So you got a very good strong espresso, because espresso is a mother of a cappuccino. So if you don't have a proper cappuccino, your coffee will not be. The only thing I don't like cappuccino, I like a little bit more intensity in hot in temperature. A quality cappuccino is never more than 65 degrees centigrade. And for me, drinking coffee that cold, I just doesn't give me good. I rather go for the milk foam espresso macchiato, where is less milk and have a more robust temperature. Okay, so cappuccino you will never get anything over 75 degrees, 65, because when you forcing the milk, your temperature cannot go more than 65. The minute you go more than 65, you split the milk, and your microfoaming of the milk bubbles is destroyed. So you got to stop at the
Salman,
65 degrees centigrade. When you stop steaming, yes,
Salman, when I go to the
yes,
local coffee shop and get a coffee, um, the
yes,
type of coffee beans that they've used are those that have been ground to either fine or very fine, and they're the
yes.
espresso variety. That's basically the formula that we use. Well, that we drink when we go to a coffee shop and have a cappuccino or whatever.
Yes,
Okay,
yes,
so
that's true. Your grind is definitely is a fine to very fine.
right,
And I'll go into the detail. If it is very fine, what happens is if it is very fine and tamping is not done, which is a technique that you see that guys are standing with a small round ball, round thing, and then you push it down.
yes,
Fine coffee can become like a cement inside, too fine. Then when you push the water, which take 27 between 20 23 to 27 seconds to press down 30 31 the milliliter of the syrup, sometime because it's too fine, it's become completely like a block, and the pressure of the machine unable to extract the best. That's why you can't go for very fine. You have to go for fine one.
Right.
It's too technical to explain everything, but
Yeah.
you got my point. Okay.
But it's
Yes.
interesting.
So as I say,
Can I just say it's
yeah. You see
interesting that.
this one.
But sorry, Simon, it's
Thank
interesting
you.
that the base is exactly the same. The coffee in all these different varieties is espresso, and all that's happening is it's the mixture of the milk and the
100%.
foam, etc., which is making the different varieties.
Yes. So everything have a historical context behind it, and so
Yeah,
on and on and on. But you are right, 100%. Everything is, when we give a barista, I'm one of the trainer. Barista is only qualified when you know how to pull a perfect shot of espresso, because espresso is the mother of all the coffees. So as you can see, all the coffees base is
yeah,
espresso. Okay, this is after the World War II, when the Italian and then Americans was in Italy, and they went to drink the espresso. Espresso in Italy is very very stiff, very very strong. They
yeah,
didn't like it. They tried, and look. So they said our American friends cannot handle, because they're used to only, like what you call it, the filter coffees. So they say put up a espresso, but then fill the coffee with the hot water so our American friends can drink, and that's become Americano.
right.
So this was after the World War II. That's where these things come from. And then of course here is, there is too many varieties nowadays. You have a red cappuccino. Have you heard about the red cappuccino?
No,
Red cappuccino is a new fashion in South Africa. It's exactly the same, but instead of using espresso, they use rooibos tea.
ah,
Okay, so they put the rooibos tree in the coffee porter, and they pressurize exactly the same technique to bring espresso out, but it's not espresso. It is actually a rooibos tea. Then they add this steam and this, and then the color give on the top. It's become red, and that's become a red espresso.
right.
Okay, look. Okay, now you can see. Now this is Americano, this is your cappuccino, this is your latte, this is
Yeah,
a mocha, this is espresso, macchiato, and this. Okay, a lot of people that go, I see especially the young girl gone and I have a coffee macchiato. Do you know what is mean by the cafe macchiato is? Scott or anybody can tell me.
no,
I have a latte macchiato. Sounds so sexy. Oh, give me a little macchiato because it's Italian.
yeah.
What does it mean by macchiato? Is anybody on the panel can
Anyone
try?
know what macchiato means? It takes a while for them to catch up because it's a few seconds before
Okay,
the
I'm
ice.
sure they must be searching. So rather not let them cheat them. Macchiato means dirty. So you have a milk, and then you dirty the milk by having a dash of cappuccino, or not the espresso. You put a little bit of espresso, and it's called a dirty milk. Macchiato means dirty, but it's Italian word. It sounds so sexy, isn't it? Huh? So people, give me the cafe macchiato. I love macchiato, but they don't even know what they're saying, because macchiato means dirty. So you
Yeah,
you take a glass of steamed milk, and you take a dash or like a teaspoon, and you add it on and mix it, and you make the whole milk brown, dirty milk.
yeah.
Okay, but it sounds sexy.
I've got
All
to
right.
say,
Okay.
Salman,
Now,
Salman, just go back one.
yeah,
I've got to say that if I went to a coffee shop and had an espresso, and that's all that they had in the
yeah,
mug, I would feel cheated. I'd
yeah.
much rather have a cappuccino, which you can see is nice and full, and you actually get something to drink. That espresso, it's like one mouthful and you're done.
It is. It is. It is. It is. It is. You know how many gram it is? It is actually espresso. It is only 30, maximum 29 to 31 milliliter, like a gram of the juice.
Wow.
But in Italy, people only have in the morning this espresso. I tell you one thing. I'll tell you. My wife, we went to one of the Starbucks coffee, and when she was ordering, the guy said, "Oh, you want espresso?" She think it is a she ordering the cappuccino. So
Mm.
she said yes, and I had a cappuccino. My daughter, everybody, we sit down. When her order arrived, I promised you a small cup, and with this, she almost cries. What is this for 37 rand? I said, this is espresso. What you order? She almost cries. No, I didn't order this. I didn't order. Take it. She was so like upset. He said, for 37 rand, this is one. So you know what espresso is like this. It's small, tiny. It's a juice. So she end up like she almost have a tears on her eyes when she said, for 37 rand, I'm not really doing that. So then we send it back, and then we have to have the cappuccino, like you said. This is like a flat latte or cappuccino,
Yeah.
because on this one, up to here, they add the foam, the steam milk, and then after that is foam.
Yeah.
So that's what it is. So this one up to here is like cappuccino. Then you got steam milk and then
Yeah.
foam on the top, and become a
You
cappuccino.
know,
I like cappuccino.
this is fascinating because I've never understood how they make a cappuccino. Now you can actually see.
Yeah. Okay. Now they say take this one, they put into this glass, and they fill it up to here with the hot water. That's why I call Americano, right?
Yeah.
Macchiato is not a latte macchiato, it's macchiato. It means the coffee is dirty now. So
Yeah.
the coffee is supposed to be drink coffee, and they put up a dash of a foam milk on the top to make it dirty. The coffee become dirty. Here the latte become, latte macchiato. That's when when the milk become dirty. Okay. Anyway, don't go into the detail.
Yeah.
Okay, now I just want to tell you something. I went to the Italy and Roma. I went to Milan everywhere. I lived 7 months there. I went to Roma. Roma is more specific. I'm going to tell you, you're not going to believe it. Here, you take this espresso, you put up a little bit of sugar, and you take a small spoon for the espresso. It's a tiny spoon, not big. Okay, and you stir it. Okay, now protocol is, guys, listen very carefully. It's got education for you. You never circular your cappuccino. Is an insult for a barista or in Italy. You don't, when you put the sugar, you don't stir. You know what you do? You put the sugar or your candle in the middle, and you put the teaspoon, a small teaspoon in the middle here, and you go from here to backward, forward, backward, forward, backward, forward,
Wow.
3 times, and you take it out. You don't stir. Technically, it's a rude thing to do to stir the coffee because you're destroying the composition. You drop the sugar on the top, and you take your teaspoon in the middle, a small one, and you go backward, forward 3 times, 3 strokes, and you take it out, and you're not allowed to lick your teaspoon. Is rude. You put your teaspoon, and then you blink your nose, and I mean, before I drink my espresso or cappuccino, I do think, and then I lift it up. It's called now sensory tasting. It means now my visual artist take everything, now bring to my nose, and I start picking up the aroma,
Yeah.
bouquet, like what is the coffee, what is the roast profile of this coffee is. I can smell the nuttiness. No, I smell the cigar. No, I smell berries. No, it look like acidity is too strong. Malic acid. No, it look like apple acidity. After that, then I'm going to sip. Then I will be able to distinguish what my mind was saying about the aroma, because that can cheat me. But when I drink, oh, I pick up a lot of caramel. Oh, I pick up a little bit of brandy taste. No, it's still very acidic. It's very much like a vinegar. Oh no, ouch. Oh, it's very berry. It is very fruity. So this is the protocol.
Yeah.
You don't drink. You look visually, mechanically. You hearing sound. The coffee is getting tuck tuck tuck, all the sound when it comes visual. Okay, now another thing is, on the top of the coffee, when you have a perfect espresso, you need to have at least 2.5 not centimeter, millimeter to 3 millimeter of a forma. Forma is on the top, which is a juices come out here, and if that forma is not there, it means it's not a perfect shot of a espresso. I don't know if you understand that.
Yeah.
Can you see the can you
I
see the
just want
light
to
bulb?
say that I've learned something really important when it comes to. I have 3 sugars in my cappuccino, and I just stir
Okay.
madly, and I've done that all my life, and I've realized that I've been screwing my coffee up.
Okay. Can you see the layer of brown on the top? Can
Mm,
you see that?
mm,
That's called a crema. Okay. That is your main juice. This is the crema. If the crema is not thick, more than 3 millimeter, it means something wrong with your shot of espresso.
so you send
In
it back.
your espresso, you send it back. And if you see that forma we call a crema, it's cracked, or it have a spotted skin like a tiger or leopard,
Yeah.
or it's got a bubble, something is wrong. It need to be smooth, it need to be shiny, it shouldn't be any crack. And then you look at it visually, and then you lift it and you smell. The first one will give you the bouquet. The second one will give you the sensation of actual the profiling of the what it is, the roast and the flavor and all these things coming out. Then finally you take sip, and you should not take more than 2 or 3 sips to finish your espresso. Italian will take a one shot and finish the whole thing and gone. Okay, that is the way. Then you have a glass of water. Protocol is the cappuccino or espresso come with a glass of water. In Italy, you can't serve anybody a coffee without a good glass of water. It is a protocol. Because the minute you finish the coffee, you gargle the water, you drink the water you got. Now, what I was telling you, when I was in Rome, my girlfriend invited me to the coffee shop. I went there, and she said, "This is a real espresso of Rome." So I said, "Okay, what is the special thing about it?" I promise you, when she told me, and I said, "No, I cannot be." She said, "You can leave the spoon in the middle, and the spoon will not fall." I said, "Why? How?" She said, "Because the coffee is so thick, the syrup of the espresso is so thick. It's like a almost like a mango juice." Okay.
Right.
So I said, "Really?" She said, "Yes." So when the cup come, when the thing come, I put my spoon in the middle. I promise you, it was so thick syrup, it doesn't go right to left. It stay in the middle.
Wow.
Imagine you got to drink. It was like horrible bitter, and but from my mouth all the way to stomach, it feel like a one line, but my steam coming out from the ears, and I was wide awake. And I tell you one thing, I was like a horse. I was running whole day. You have no idea. So that is espresso in Italia in Roma, which is like a syrup. Okay, boring. Now let's move on to the next slide. This is a traditional 17, 1800 old, 17th century, your typical coffee Asian machines, some of the gorgeous. Now this is European coffee maker, as you can see.
Right.
As you can see, Saffron here. That is a neat one. That is a cafeteria. That is like what you call it. We call it. This is a cafeteria as well. That you have a coffee in the middle, coffee beans here. Then you have a water here, and you put it here on the stove, and the water push from here, and then on the top it end up on here. So it's called a cafeteria. This is called a cafeteria, and that is also cafeteria is more in Brazil, and they use it. This is your Turkish, more of a traditional way of making coffee, called a crick. That is very ancient. You can see that is a beautiful, beautiful beauties of like a rose rice of the coffee. This is beautiful. Even we in South Africa, some of the restaurants they have these things. This is wow. Look at the gorgeous machines, eh? Gorgeous, gorgeous, gorgeous.
Oh, wow.
This is traditional Gaga. That is, the two single head porta. That is a single head double porta. That is now artistic way. This is single head. That is more traditional Gaga. That is, you can see 1, 2, 3 porta. That is more for traditional. You got a two steamer, and that is you're paying around 200, 300,000 rand for the machine like that.
Wow.
You're paying around 30 to 40,000 for this machine. Yeah. I mean, I tell you one thing. In Bryanston, there is a cider coffee. I went to cider coffee, and there was a one state of the art machine. You can see through inside. It was Ferrari cappuccino making machine, espresso making machine. I kid you not, it was a stainless steel with a brass, and the handle was made by the wood, rosewood, and you can see every single mechanism of the coffee inside. And I look at it, it's written there Ferrari. I say, wow, this is beautiful. And I say, I don't really ask the price, and how much is it? It was a 295,000 rand for the machine.
Wow.
So yeah, machine can goes. Okay, now let me demystify the myth. People think something like tea does not have a caffeine. So this is amount of the caffeine in a cup. Decaffeinated 3%, hot chocolate 19, green tea 20, shot of espresso 27, can of cola 40%, black tea 45%, Red Bull 80%, instant coffee. We think instant coffee is much lesser than a shot of espresso. No, instant coffee is 82%. That we call a re-coffee. Okay, because it's chicory, it's not a coffee bean. And a brewed coffee, that is a high, which I was showing you the beans, which is burned, it get out, is 95% coffee,
Right.
guys. So next time you're having a coffee, you know when you're drinking the Red Bull, what you're putting into your stomach. Okay, now, any question?
No, we're all fascinated.
What I want to do, I want to go to one of the slides to just leave you. Watch here, just 1 second. I just need to catch the glass of water. Just give me 1 second. I'm back now.
Sure. Okay, guys, if you've got questions, please just drop them in the side chat. Make sure that you put loving life in there so that I pick it up. I do keep an eye on the side chat, but I can miss questions if you don't make them stand out. Joshua Hart says, knew a girl who had a big nose, gone out for coffee. Every time she takes a sip, there'd be foam on her nose.
Don't take it for a coffee then, eh? Take for the wine.
Yeah. Over
Okay,
to
I'm
you.
back.
Yeah, over to you.
Let me ask you a question. Let me ask you a question. You know, when people talk about coffee, I'm both side of it. Before for the last from the 2000 to the 2012 and 13, I had my own mineral water plant in South Africa, Naturale Minerale, one of the best and the oldest plant I had. And I'm also a hydrogeologist almost, and also expert on water. Now, when people ask me, what is a good cup of coffee? What does it take to make a good cup of coffee? You know what is my answer is?
What?
I ask them a question.
Yeah.
I ask them a question. The good cup of coffee is not about the beans. So I said, no, it is all about the beans. I said, maybe that's what you think. So they say, what do you mean? I say, when you make a shot of coffee, you take 14 gram of a granite, 14 to 16 gram of a coffee, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yes. I say, then you pull into a porta and you put the press the button within 26 second to 26 to 31 second. You pull 31 to 35 maximum milliliter of a brown coffee. We call it espresso. Yes. Then I say you add either the water and milk or whatever. Normally, like like you make cappuccino milk, that has become full cup. Actually, your coffee is only 5 to 7%. The beans is 5 to 7%. So your coffee quality of the coffee is not really dictated by the quality of the bean. Yes, it play a big part, but what is really play the part is the quality of the water. You can have the best beans, the best roasting coffee, the best grinding, the best machine, but you're using a hard water like in Cape Town, high percentage of the hard calcium water, or your pH is out, low acidity or high alkalinity, you're going to ruin the coffee. Why? Because your coffee, when it's extract, 90%, 95% is a water. So it is very important for anybody who's listening to this conversation, when you drink the coffee or when you buy the machine, don't buy the best machine and don't buy the filter system, or do not buy the best coffee. People, those are producing underneath, they have a water filtration system which is attuned to, because water sample, nobody can afford to buy a mineral water. Ideally you should be buying a neutral 7 pH and low acidity, low TDS, I will say 100 125 TDS water to make a good cup of coffee. It need to be less hard water. But a lot of big companies invest hugely into system which make sure your coffee water coming to the coffee machine, it is get filtered, it reduce all the residual microbiological content and also all the hardness of the water, to make sure when the water come, it is have a neutral pH value. It doesn't have the high TDS, because if you take a good quality coffee and your TDS is out, you have too much of a nitrate or too much of a calcium, you're going to ruin actually the coffee. And I have done the tested. I took the different rent water, I took the Joburg water, I took the different type of water, bottled water from the different part of the country, and I used the same coffee grains, grind it and pull it out the shot and into the glasses, and you can see the difference of the color because of the different water composition. So please, guys, pay attention when you are actually buying a coffee machine or when you're making coffee. Your water dictate the final product. Okay. So what is the ideal water composition? Your odor need to be clean, fresh, free. Color clear. Total chlorine cannot be more than one acceptable 1 milligram. TDS, which is a total dissolved solid, that is 150 gram, 150 gram, the ideal and the acceptable. Calcium hardness cannot be more than 68 milligrams. So you need to look at it, your water house, and you need to know your chemical composition. Total alkalinity, that need to be not more than 40 gram. pH 7, 6.5 to 7 is a neutral. Anything more than 7, become alkaline. Anything below 6.6 is become acidic. Your sodium nitrate, 10 milligram, 10 milligram per per one part. So this is what you need to have to produce a best coffee. If your TDS is actually over 200 or 250, it means yes, it's good mineral water, but it's not ideal, suitable to extract the best juices out of the beans. So, guys, a lot of people, as an expert, when I go and consult with the big coffee shops and all these things, they say, "What coffee can I buy? What machine can I buy?" I say, before you buy a coffee machine, anything, what water are you using? I'm using a constant water. Why? I said, because that's what you need to know first before you go and invest into the machine. Because some of the machines come with a full package that you had your own RO system underneath, which will be able to help you. None of the machine is automated to bring your, because you may be in Cape Town, maybe you in Opumalanga, you in Armalo, or I don't know where. Maybe each water local source is different. So you need to take a water composition sample of your tap water. You need to get an expert. You need to see how do I set, what our filtration system do I need to get into my system before the water get into the coffee machine, and because to achieve this, because if you don't have it, I promise you, you're not going to have a optimum taste of the coffee. All right, everybody happy with that?
Yep. Now, someone's asked here, would colloidal silver in water help?
Say again.
Would colloidal silver in the water help?
Depending on the composition, I need to see the composition and I need to understand the how does it will react. Yes, it can, but depending on what other elements are presented, is it the high TDS? Just ask. If it's the high TDS, it's going to counterbalance. If it is going to be the hardness is coming from the calcium or potassium and phosphorus, it is not going to help
Right.
because it's very difficult to profile the water. You need to know the full water composition to I can answer then.
Right. Now, Shirley Dewhurst has
That's clear.
asked uh, that she says, yes, that's interesting. That's why the same coffee can taste totally different in another country depending on their water.
100%. Thank you for validating my thing. I have proven, I have done the test in front of the people, big crowd, and I explained to them the quality of the water is the utmost important.
Yeah.
And I take the 5 liter bottle of Volpre, take a 5 liter bottle of Levi the Luke, and many other, and I pull the water under the table from the what you call a coffee machine, and I clean the machine, and I say I'm pulling the same coffee beans that I have grinded for you, A, B, C, D, and I put up a 5 glasses, and I say look at the color profile, and everybody say wow, so much, but the same coffee beans,
Yeah.
because one is a high hardness, one have a high alkaline, one got a chlorine. Rainwater is going to completely mess your coffee because the high chlorine level is okay for good drinking, but coffee no.
Yeah.
Coffee, you got to be expert on a water.
Now,
Okay,
Fiona Timms
so
is, hang
this is
on,
the new thing.
one final question
Yes,
here, Salma. Fiona Timms has asked,
yes.
can Salman please explain how they produce decaffeinated coffee?
Decaffeinated coffee, it's get produced because what they do, they actually what you call it, soak the beans and they reduce the caffeine. They extract the caffeine out of the beans before it get processed into actual. Your they are chemical. There are a lot of people that use chemical. There are many methods to decaffeinate the coffee bean before it, because what you're doing, you're taking the coffee beans and then you are extracting the main mother juices out of it, and then then it's become a naked. So what you got a pulp, but your level of acidity and level of the what you call it, man, the man, what I was saying, caffeine, the chemical composition of the caffeine get extracted from the bean, then it just give you same taste as like you drinking coffee, but the caffeine has been extracted. It's a whole formula. There's a whole process. I don't have the slides on my laptop to show you, but next time we do the program, I can show you how does that happen.
Right.
I hope that helps him.
Now, I've just got one final question before I go back to you. Josh Hart has asked, what are guests' thoughts on proper water temperature, and should it be should it vary by bean or by roast? I guess what he's saying is depending on the bean or the roast, what temperature should your water be when you drink it?
Okay, very interesting question. Your coffee temperature, when you actually brewing your coffee, when you have your, what you call it, when you have a porta, when you put the coffee powder into your porta. Porta is like a handle that you see in the coffee when the espresso coffee is making. You put the coffee, grinded coffee, then they push, and then they put, which is called a tamping, not push, and then they put into the porta and they press the button. The pressure bar is 8 bar that get pushed, and that the temperature is almost 180-degree. Now, because of the pressure of the water, because that the cappuccino is much more hotter than your, sorry, your espresso is much more hotter. Now, what I think I want to explain to him is, excuse me, sorry, that the boiling temperature, it differ from Johannesburg to Cape Town and into the sea. Now, I give you example. The boiling temperature in Durban is 100 degrees centigrade. When you come to Joburg or you in St. Maurice in Switzerland, your boiling temperature between 93 to 95 is that 100 degree. When you in submarine 300 meters down, your boiling temperature is 300 minus.
Wow.
So depending on to where you are, altitude wise, your boiling temperature differ, but you can extract and brew the coffee anything over 100 degrees centigrade. But because of the coffee beans to be extracted within 25 seconds, the temperature of the water, boiling temperature go over 140, and that's why it push with a pressure 8 bar to get you the best coffee extract out from that powder. I don't know if I answer his question.
I think he meant coffee that you just pour into a mug.
Okay, now there need to be the coffee pouring. Okay, that's sorry, I missed the point. You, if you have if you have a granule coffee, sorry,
Yeah.
and you wanted to make a best brew, it got to be 100-degree. In Johannesburg, it would be 95-degree because you can't boil you can't come to the boiling temperature in Johannesburg more than 95. 95 is the best you can get. In Durban, all the seasides or the at the sea level, it's 100-degree. So you
Right.
got to achieve 100-degree to brew and then get it. Depend. I mean, sometimes I wanted to have less intensity in my coffee. If I'm using the granules and I want to pour in instant coffee, I just boil and I will maybe 65 to 70-degree because I don't want to have too hot because I just want to have quick drink and go.
Yeah.
But to make a good quality coffee, you got to arrive at 100-degree and you got to wait for infusion to take place, chemical reaction of the beans or the granules to take place. You got to give at least between 2 minutes to 3 minutes or 1.5 minutes to 2 minutes to
Right.
get. For the tea, it need definitely at 100 degrees centigrade, and you need to give minimum of 1.5 to 2 minutes, minimum 2 minutes to get a real extraction from the tea out. But if you're using a young tea leaves or you're using a green, you can't go more than 80 degrees centigrade. Otherwise, you're gonna scald the chemicals of the green leaves. You have to be between 75 to the 80-degree. You can't go more than that when you're making a green leaf tea.
Right.
Okay,
Okay, let's move on.
okay. I don't go into this now. Steaming of the milk that people use. Okay, that's because your cappuccino is 80% is actually the milk. So you got to do called microfoaming of the milk. Not full cream milk will give you the best foaming. A lot of people say no, full cream milk will give. No, it's not, because then the fat content is too high, and when you try to microfoam it, you hear the sound. That is microfoaming. That the what you call it, the steam coming into the nozzle, and that is going to beat into the jug here. If it is a full cream milk, is going to actually break the fat, and you're not going to achieve the foaming. So your milk can be normal, skinny milk can be perfect, no problem. And a lot of people nowadays they're using the almond milk or soya milk or combination of the almond milk and the low skim milk. But some barista will still get a very good foaming microfoaming from a full cream milk. So it's very dictatable. But by the rule of the thumb is that your milk should not be full cream. Okay, let me go to the next slide. Spinning of the milk, rolling of the milk. I don't have time to go into the detail, but I can tell you that when you dip your nozzle, as you can see the nozzle
Yeah.
into the tea, as and always you fill the milk up to the tip here, not full all the way. You hear, and then you put your tip, just only the tip, and you open your nozzle, and you hear the sound. Psst. Okay, now one thing, the barista rituals. When you actually start steaming, you got to de-steam. You will see the nose with the handle of the steamer goes. Pss, pss, pss. Why? Because residue of the water is already built up into the nozzle. You got to throw them out first before you dip into that. So all the barista, before they put the milk in, they will go. These are rituals. You will see a lot of drops of the water coming. They will use the white cloth, because any barista, professional barista, there will be three cloths: brown cloth for cleaning the grinding and all this thing. Then you have a blue cloth which cleaning the machine, and a white cloth is only to clean the steam one, which we call it this one steamer. You can't use any other cloth to clean it, and they will do the pss, pss, and then after they clean, then they will dip the milk, and the milk tip only will touch the surface. And as they open the steam and gradually going higher, they will go down and down, and the level of the milk will start coming slow, 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 slow up, and it means that you have achieved the micro. We call it a microfoaming, and sometimes we call it a stretching and rilling. Rilling means you're rounding, and stretching means when you want to side by side move your jug. It's a technique. I can't show you now. It's no time, but that's the way it's work. And you have to rest. Resting of the milk. What is mean? The resting of the milk. You done it. You wait, and you take the, like your. Have you seen the barista when they done the steaming there, and then they go like this? It means they're bringing polishing. This is called a polishing of the milk. They hit 2, 3, resting. It means the curry, the cream, the milk, the foam, it get up, 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 and that's why you take the barista. He hit 3 times, 1, 2, and 3, and then you're ready to start pouring. And when you start pouring, you look at the shine. The milk should be like a wet paint color, and then you start pouring. And pouring is a technique. This is your one should be touching, and as you go, it will go deep, and then you sideways. So you start from touching the milk jug from here, then you go is rilling around and steaming of the milk, and then you go sideways, and you achieve what you want to achieve. Okay, I don't want to go into the more of the thing that we got this one, and this is the latte art. Now you have a championships, and this is the way now where the world is moving toward. It's now barista competition. I judge all the time. So, but when we see, of course, there are pouring techniques and everything else. I'll give you 1 or 2 tips. Now, this is called a perfect latte art. Why? Because of contrast. One, we look at the shine. So it is full. It's not half full. It's full. It's like almost like a over full, but it's not dropping outside because it cannot be under. The minute under is sinking. So it needs to be overlapping, like a little bit from the edge. It's overlapping. Now, if you look at it, you can draw the line here and you can draw the line here. Everything geometrically 100% on spot. So the barista is not just who will be able to make some art. We give barista championship trophies. We look at the artwork, pouring technique, holding technique, the timing, and look at the geometry. Now, if you draw the line, it's perfect line in the center and perfect line, and this double rosetta, or we call it, it's perfectly done. Okay, this is not perfectly done. You can see it's shabby. This is perfectly done. Okay, now another thing we look at is a contrast. Can you able to distinct the contrast, brown to white? Yes. Is it left and right is identical? Okay, here barista will lose because here is too fine and here is too much thickness. This is quite a beautifully done. Is double rosetta and then 2 crosses. Geometrically is tilting one side, is gone too much this side and leaving, so might will lose 2 or 3 points. This is perfect, beautiful, contrast is there, beautiful piece of art. But what I'm trying to explain to you, when we judge as a barista's cup, this will lose a lot of mark because you can see is depression. The depression means it is not on the edge, its shine is not there. But contrast, I'll give a full mark. Geometry, I will give 60% to 70%. because it's just not 100% accurate. But this one is look like to be more geometrically right. This one, as you can see from an edge, is down. So the barista, when his pour was shorter than what it's supposed to, because it must be like almost like falling, but it's not falling apart. It's like edge. When you put on the thing, you can should be able to see the creamer on the top, not sinking inside. I don't know if I have made some point. And there is a more of now where we're getting toward the colors and this. I
Wow.
don't like too much. I don't like too much play. But nowadays, you can have so many. In South Africa, we had a competition. The girls make an elephant. Somebody make a double hippo. I don't know. It was some beautiful things was happening.
Well, I heard,
Look at the quality.
Salman, I heard that
Yeah.
there's now a device that you can actually like make a photo. So
Yes,
if you
yes,
got a face,
yes,
you can
yes,
actually drop that
yes.
face into the designs you've got here.
Okay, now what it is? The device is it is a small printer. They take your picture, romantic, the couple, and they will put like a heart shape, and the girlfriend and boyfriend, the both in a picture. And there is a rice paper, very fine rice paper, and there's a small gadget machine which will instantly translate into your software. From software, it get printed. It print on a rice paper, and then they cut to the cup size and they put onto the top of it, and that rice paper gets synced into your coffee, and by the time you take it to your guest, your coffee depict your picture, or the couple picture onto the top. So there are many way of doing it. So it's no that they take and laser beam it. No, that is printed onto the ice paper, and that rice paper, sorry, and then they put it onto that.
Right.
Any question?
No questions here in the side chat. They're just watching.
Fantastic. Good. So what I want to just quickly tell you, the next time you go, you want your barista, you got to have the perfect ratio. You got to have the perfect combination of the coffee beans, Arabica or Robusta, maybe blended from the different countries, different altitude, depending on to the coffee master or roast master. Then it need to be perfectly roasted, top class roaster roasted, good profiling. It cannot be too old. Then it needs to be grinded perfectly medium, not a medium, fine roast. After that, grinding and is going to be between 14 to 17 gram. When he done it, then he get his tamper, his portafilter, which is a handle that he's put. He pour it after the grinding, then he use his elbow to put up a pressure with a thumb like you're holding a torch, and he push and he circle. It's called a tamping. After the tamping, that porta he will hold in a hand, and he will polish the top. So if there are any granules sitting on the top of the porta, which is like the handle that you put into the coffee machine and you press a button, on the side any granule you need to clean, and underneath there's a two airs where the coffee is coming, you got to clean. Then you pull and you log into the porta, which is your where the water is going to dip. Then before you bring your cup down, the barista will never put the porta in. First, he will flush the water out, because sometimes the residue of the old coffee sitting there. So before he put his porta to log into to make and press the coffee machine button, he press the button. It will go for 3 seconds. See, all the water is out. Then you wait, and then you log the porta. Now, the ritual is you don't put the cup and then you switch it on. You press the button first, then you take your cup, 1 cup or 2 cup, and you bring. It takes you 3 to 4 seconds. A good tamping is indicated by the juices of the coffee will not drop into your coffee, even though despite you have pressed the button, it must take 5 seconds. So that 5 seconds, a good barista, he will put he will put this porta, he will press the button, then he will keep the cup, and then he will bring under the coffee machine. But if he said he put the cup and he pressed, it means he's immature, he doesn't know what he's doing because he's not confident enough. And if the coffee is dripping, one side, the other side is dripping or dripping very fast, within the first 5 seconds, it start dripping very fast and end before 30 seconds or 25 seconds, it means you're tamping the way he pressed the coffee granules in his porta, it was not even. We call it channeling. Now, the other thing you need to watch out that when the coffee is dripping in your coffee cup, it need to be dripped like a what you call it, maple syrup. When you take a spoonful of a maple, or the honey. You know how the honey drip coming thick and then slide down slow. That's the way coffee need to pour. If it's pouring too fast, it means the tamping or your coffee grinding was not right. If it's dripping tick 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 tick, it means your coffee, the pressure of the tamping, the person who pushed the coffee by the hand and press too hard, it becomes sealed, and the pressure of the water is not pushing the juices into the cup. That's why the drops are coming. It's supposed to flow not like a runny water, but like a honey is dropping from the sun. And it should take between the 1 second to 25, between 25 to 30 second maximum. Let's say 20 second is a perfect cup shot come, and 30 gram milliliter of the juices will drip. You can drink directly, or you can add cappuccino. You can make the coffee with add so on it. So that what it goes behind a perfect cup of coffee. So next time you go, please make sure you watch out all these things. The coffee, every time he do the milk, he need to clean his wand. When he finish the coffee, he do his cup, tuck 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 tuck. He will take, and he will say psh, psh, and he will take the white cloth and clean it. Before he steam the milk, he need to clean before he do the steaming. All the before he put the porter in it, he need to wash residues in it. In the residues must come out before he poured the porter. All these small thing is rituals. And if you think the barista have managed to do all these things and perfect coffee, and the rows or whatever you see, it come right geometrically and everything, aroma is good, you must give him a tip, because he's a master. He is doing something very good. So sometimes we take coffee barista for granted, but it's a lot of hard work, a lot of technical specification goes behind the scene. And please do ask question, guys. What type of beans you serving it today? And if they don't answer, he said, don't. I always tell them, guys, this is your profession. You must learn what coffee beans. Don't say, no, it is my mug and bean secret recipe. You can't, because he doesn't know what beans he's serving. Understand? So ask question. Any question? Anything else you want to discuss? We have another 7 minutes to our time is over.
Yeah, look, we haven't had any questions come through since that bunch, but I've got a couple of questions for you, Salman. And the first question is basically, when we talk about these different varieties of coffee like cappuccino, espresso, etc., there are so many different types of beans. What does the espresso coffee actually come down to? Is that a particular variety of the coffee? Is it made in a particular place? Because there's so many different variants of coffee, aren't there? Like you've got the green coffee, you've got the well roasted coffee, you've got all these different types. What is the sort of the formula for the espresso?
A good quality espresso depend on to it is very subjective. Maybe you like a strong acidic espresso. Some people, they don't like too acidic. So it's very subjective. But the good espresso must have a certain level of bitterness, certain level of acidity, and it must have a flavorant. So when you drink a sip of coffee, you should be able to close your eyes and feel on your palate. But before you even go there, you should be able to look visually that your forma, which is like a brown color shield, is not cracked. It doesn't have the spot. It doesn't have the bubbles. You know that is perfect. When you smell it, you start picking up the roast flavor. Is it a dark? I can smell burn. Oh, I can smell smoothness. Oh, I can smell the sugary. I can smell acidity. Then finally, then you want to validate it by taking a sip. When you take a sip, you will pick up the acidity. You will pick up the bitterness. You can pick up all around. But as I said, if the water is a rainwater or a rubbish water, it doesn't matter what you have. I think your question is, there is no set criterion, but what in South, each country have its own profile, right? In South Africa, we don't like we don't like dark roasting, too dark. We like medium roast in South Africa. anything which is sweet, you people like it, and that's why the milk in espresso bring a lot of sweetness. That's why we love it. Espresso is not a cup of coffee for everybody. It's not. It's only the people who have an acquired taste, or those who are master, or those who really want to have a kickstart, or maybe they got a European or American flavor into them, not American, European thing that they wanted to, or some people went from South Africa to overseas and they get attuned to espresso because our weather doesn't require us to have espresso. In Italy, when it's cold, when France it is cold, some part of the Europe is very cold. Espresso is must. Every morning you go, you have a cup of espresso, and then you go in afternoon, you take a cappuccino. In the evening after the dinner, you have a cappuccino. But there is no set standard. It is a personal preference. But as I said, personal preference is one thing. You can't have a a coarse grinded coffee and have a very runny, syrupy type of espresso, and then you add it up, and there is no flavor, there is no punch. When I drink a coffee, I like to have the body, like a wine. You have to have the body. You got to have, we call it viscosity. Viscosity is, even though there is a triple amount of the milk in a form of a foam milk and a steam milk, but when I taste, when I pick up my coffee and drink, these three elements is complementing each other, and it create a viscosity in my mouth. It's not too runny, it's not too like a milkshake. It's got element. The best coffee I had, I'll tell you now exactly where I had the best coffee. Yeah, I was in a Monte Casino, Figo Coffee, and this chap make a coffee, beautiful art. And when I tasted, I tell you one thing, I could not figure out where the coffee was coming from, what profile it was, but it was so intense, and it was give me a first shot was like caramelized, beautiful caramelized honeycomb coffee, and as I was finishing off, it still give me the lingering, this flavor on my mouth was of like an Ovaltine. When you finish the Ovaltine cup and you still have the maltness on your, wow, it was every single drop of the cup. I called the barista and I gave him a good tip, and I took the picture of the barista. I took the picture of the cup. It was the best. Of course, Tasha also in William Nicole make a very good cup. Some other places you go. I had this morning at the Seattle Coffee in Four Ways. I had a cup, excellent, not a problem, nice robust, lot of flavorant, lot of bouquet, and it was fantastic. So
Yeah.
yeah, as I say, like it's very difficult, but you can ask and you can have your preference. Some coffee like being there. Some people specialize in Ethiopian coffee and African coffees, and like you go to the what his name is Starbucks. You can go and ask, do you have the dark roast coffee? They will say yes. So can you make me a dark roast, or do you have imported Guatemala? They will tell you if you're interested which coffee beans, which, and then you can get it especially made coffee for you.
Right. Now, okay, I'm going to finish off with one final question for you, Salman. What what
Okay.
what coffee brand do you personally buy and drink?
You see, my problem is because I understand coffee too good. I'm not saying I'm expert because I'm always learning. I always keep changing because I cannot marry myself to the one brand, because I got to try different variety, different country, different crop, different roast, and I experiment. But I can tell you why, without giving anybody a punt, Lavazza is not bad, Catura is not bad, Cafe de Pino in Johannesburg, it's not bad, it's good. But sometimes you go and you look at, oh, this is Guatemala and Brazilian coffee, you open and was not good. Then they are, been there, lovely coffee. They make lovely coffee in Woolworth. They have a counter. So I'm not married to one coffee, and I don't patronize one only. But because I experiment too much, I buy any. But of course, I'm not cognizant of the fact that I need to support African brand, and I will if I have to go and pay, because most of the time I get complimentary boxes of coffee coming to me for tasting and writing the blogs and talk about the coffees and all this thing. So I get plenty of coffee coming to me. But if I'm going to buy for 70, 80 rand, I promise you, I will look at the back of the package, altitude, and all that type of thing, and I will be very, very conscious that not to buy any European brand. I will support our local brand. I will support our African brand. I will support Brazilian, Latin American. I will not buy any European because I will paying maybe 20% more for something that has been produced, cultivated in Africa or Latin America, exported to Europe, and coming back to us at the premium price. So for that glossy packaging, why I must pay more? So nothing wrong with Italian brands and all this thing. I do drink sometimes, but what I'm saying is, if I'm going to spend 80 or 100 rand for a 250 gram of the beans or something, I'll look into these things very much so, and
Yeah.
I will ask all of you to look at it, the altitude, look at it, the coffee, like your roast profile, look at it, the country, look at the blend, look at many other things before you patronize it. And I think I don't want to say that, but I'm sure, I think you are now a little bit more informed about the coffee, making of the coffee and coffee politics, what you were before 8 o'clock. That's what I
Absolutely.
think.
Simon, I want to thank you so much for coming on. We've been on for about 2 hours, which is way beyond the timeline we were looking at. But look, it's been fascinating, and thank you, and everybody's loved the discussion. Yeah, thank you so much.
No, I love it. If you want to give my website address, which can I give
I've
it to
got
you,
it.
or do you
Yeah,
want to put it?
I've put
Yeah,
it down
give
below
it to.
the video.
Yeah, yeah. Is what you call it? Is www is Barista Academy Southern Africa, and no, sorry, Barista Academy SA dot co dot za, and that is my another the firm or company beside my other company, and that's where if somebody want to come on a course, whether it is a social bearing course, or somebody want to come and learn to be a barista, because barista is becoming like a rock star, and people are like it's really, you go and you say, I'm a barista. Like a lot of young girls, those who want to travel after the metric or education, they done the degree, now they're going to Europe, and this
Mm.
they know that they can actually
Get a
they
job.
can go and make money. Yeah, they can get a job, and they are
Yeah.
freelance. The good quality one, they can go and yeah, they charge the money. And even though in South Africa, I seen the engineer, I see the doctors coming to me, I
Yeah.
want to learn. Why now? I want to impress my friends. Some of the people, those who at a good day job and have a good income, but they want to make money, and they can do a couple of hours in the evening, and they get paid good money, because you're pulling the nice cup of coffee for people for 2 3 hours at the wedding or function or somewhere, or a football match, and you're making constantly a nice cup of cappuccino, and the owner of the place will give you a good money. So it's as a good profession, it's very portable and internationally recognized. Wherever you go, you will be able to use it.
Right. All right, Salman, thank you so much for joining us tonight, and have a great evening. And to everybody who's joined us and watched the video, I guess you'll now know how to make the perfect cup of coffee. Take care, and
Yes, we will continue to discuss that, and we will continue to interchange. If anybody want to interact with me, you can give my telephone number or my website,
right.
as well as my the whatever, and then we can continue, and then we should have a follow up on to the other things. And yeah, we should look into another thing that I did, is called ABC of wine, and we can also do that as well. I mean, exactly
Yeah.
the same thing, and you will be able to learn the same way. And I'm not an expert, but
Mm.
I definitely have, yeah,
All right,
passion
that's
for
great,
coffee
because
and this.
yeah,
Thank you.
I'll
Yeah.
get Marlena to have a chat to you
That's
about that.
right. As well as mine. Whatever. And then we can continue.
Okay, ciao for now.
Sorry, I'm going to switch it off. I've just got onto the second. Can I? Yeah. Okay. Can you hear me?
Yes, I can,
All
Salman.
right. Let me just switch off my. Just a second.
Okay, guys, I think Salman has gone. I hope you enjoyed that discussion about coffee, and have a great evening. And I will go out with our favorite song here, Belay Ek Boer. Here we go. Let me just get it up.
Meer as 61.000 van ons voorvaders het op die grens vir ons gesterwe, sodat ons vry kan wees. Die is my land, die is my reg, hier is ek boer. Van stof is ek gemaak en sal ek terugkeer. Die Bybel is die woord waaruit ek leer, soos die grond op die aarde. Hier bly ek boer. Soos 'n diep in die nag sal die vyand kom, maar hier bly ek staan en ek draai nie om, want jy maak my nie bang nie. Hier bly ek boer. Die is my land waarvoor ek sal veg. Die is my bloed, my sweet, my reg. Die is die plek waar my voorvaders leef. Die is my land, hoor wat ek jou sê. Die is my land, wat my mense voor. Hier bly ek voor. Soos 'n blaassam in die somer wat vreugde bring, my oupa wat maniekie kon sing, soos hy stap deur die lande. Hier was hy boer. My wortels lê diep in die grond geplant. Hy sien soos my pa, los ek vir jou die land, en jy hoef nie te vrees nie. Hier sal jy boer. Die is my land waarvoor ek sal veg. Die is my bloed, my sweet, my reg. Die is die plek waar my voorvaders leef. Die is my land, hoor wat ek jou sê. Die is my land, wat my mense voor. Hier bly ek voor. Die leeu sal kom, 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 die leeu sal kom.